Eden Kaz here with Just Be, and we are about to take a spiritual boom. We are at an unprecedented time in human history where we are transitioning from 3D to 5D within the great spiritual awakening. This video and audio podcast is the place for you to find your truth beyond politics, your sovereignty, your voice. Let's kick up your vibration now. By the way, each episode ends with the Just Be practice to do just that. And as we begin the show, just to know a little bit more about me, I'm a soul realignment specialist, meditation master, and dimensional healer. Learn more, and there's merch also at EdenJustBe.com. Let's get this party started. Eden, Just Be Spiritual Boom. Welcome, everybody. In association with the beautiful, wonderful Grassroots Warriors Network, Kenji, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello, hello.
Awesome. How you doing today?
Wonderful.
Great. All right. So I like to say what we're going to talk about, but it could completely change. But I do, man, Kenji has a really interesting life. So I would like to talk about what has happened with him, his suffering and challenges, because they are not that they're cool, but you've gone through a lot of stuff, and a lot of folks that have been placed on this earth to really do this divine work have had some challenges, and you have had some. And then I also want to go into the Great Awakening and see where you see things now. So I'm very, very excited about that. Okay, couple quick little notes. Jules, who is coming on before Kenji, episode 171. Y'all check it out. It's really high level and really good. And then Kenji, just to give an update. So on 169, I did it by myself. I didn't have a guest on, talking about this 3-month now divine, feminine, masculine relationship that I'm in. So I want to give a quick little update on that. It is wonderful, yet so challenging as we are, and I feel like it's my place to really work on these, the programming that feminine and masculine have. And I desire this, as y'all know, to go very slowly. So it's been almost 3 months, and I'm going to be straight up. We haven't kissed or anything. So he keeps saying to me, when are you going to put your lips on mine? Yeah. And I keep going, I don't know exactly when, yet I want to know your soul first and your heart before any of that. And to me, kissing is like the most intimate thing. So letting go of the programming too, well, when you're in a relationship sexually, you know, you need to kiss first, then you move to this, and then you move to that. And this is like, no, we're not, we're not going to do any of that way. We're going to do it, I go back to with a heart. So he looks at me sometimes. He's like, who are you? What is this? And I'm like, just, can you hang with it? And he's like, yeah. And to conclude with that, you cannot say the wrong thing to the right person. So anybody else who's doing this, man, best of luck to you. It's fun. It's, soul encompassing. It's everything. And it's worth it. Kenji, are you in a romantic relationship right now?
No, I'm alone, and I've been alone most of my life.
Okay. Would you desire one? Or are you cool?
I'm neutral.
Okay.
So if the right person comes along, yeah, we'll go out for breakfast, we'll go on some hikes, and we won't kiss for the first 6 months. You know, the whole thing.
The whole shebang. All right, that was lovely. Let me introduce you officially. Kenji Kumara, known as the Whisperer of Wisdom, is a Gen Z Starseed mentor, initiator, and consciousness coach. And I had to look this up just to get the dates right. Gen Z is the demographic born after millennials and before Generation Alpha, roughly from 1997 to 2012. He is recognized for his work in personal transformation, healing people, or helping people achieve deep spiritual awakenings. Oh my gosh, can I say that right? Spiritual awakenings, self-healing, and alignment with their higher selves. His teachings often incorporate energy work, guided meditations, and intuitive healing, drawing on spiritual traditions and practices to assist individuals in achieving peace, clarity, and emotional freedom. Kumar is known for his gentle and compassionate approach, often using the metaphor of being a whisper to describe how he imparts wisdom and insights to his students and clients, which is a great contrast to me because I'm pretty loud. His work emphasizes the importance of listening to one's inner wisdom and connecting with the divine energy within. He offers Sedona retreats, online programs, and personal mentoring sessions aimed to help Gen Z starseeds overcome obstacles and achieve a higher state of consciousness. Okay, I'm gonna adjust my screen for a second. That's nice. So, first off, I wanted to ask you, and we can go more into this later, but I felt a calling for this one. Okay, in this cosmic battle that we're in right now, this great awakening, good versus evil, and the coming of the new Earth. Would you go ahead and impart to us what do you think right now is one of the most important things to know and one of the most important things to transcend? And I want to go into you.
Transcending the veil of illusion, going
Yeah.
backwards with your question,
Yes.
knowing thyself and maintaining a strong daily inner source connection, and to know that what's happening in the world as we are being fed through media, all kinds of media,
Yeah.
most of that is not relevant to the emerging star seeds in the sense of their awakening and spiritual path. So the teachings really is to recognize where the illusions are
Mm-hmm.
within oneself and without, to stay in the voyager mode, meaning not to take sides, to be right in that middle path like the Buddha taught, to know always who you are and to be free within and having the courage to spontaneously express your innate wisdom and knowingness.
Well, I would say that is an awesome beginning to our chat. Thank you so much. Okay, I want to transition for a second into you because I've watched some shows that you've done and also got some information from you. All right, so starting at like age 5, when you asked your mom, "Who am I?" and she said you were Japanese, and I don't think that was substantial enough for you. Was that kind of the beginning of questioning more?
Yeah, that really began, I guess, my search at age 5 because I knew inwardly that that wasn't the level of question I was asking mom.
Yeah.
But I guess that was a spontaneous question. That was not a pre-thought question. I just walked into the bathroom as she was cleaning the bathtub, and I said, "Mom, who am I?" And he said, "You're Japanese." And then I just walked away thinking, "Oh no, that was not it." And so actually, my search physically began in my first year in college at age 23.
Okay.
But before that, I've had some uh, diseases early
Yeah.
on and near-death experience where I could have died in that car accident when I was age 7, I believe. I
Okay.
got
So,
hit by a real car with a real bumper going 35 miles an hour, and it was a hit and run.
okay. Before we get into that, okay. So I have notes that you were born 7 weeks premature to start out with, scurry at age 3, polio in the back. Is that right? At age 5, and then hit by a car at 7. All right. Tell me about the car a little bit more.
Well, it was a black car. I don't know if
Okay.
that was symbolic or not, but I was on a flexi that they outlawed because of people like me getting hit by a car and either dying or getting injured. So
Yeah.
they outlawed it, but it was like a sled with wheels on it, and it had little handlebars, and you lay on it flat and go down the sidewalk. Not supposed to do that in the street, but I got caught across the street with my mom, and she called me back home because I wasn't supposed to be across the street. And so I got on my flexi and I didn't see the car and it hit
Okay.
me and I passed out. And here's the interesting thing. So I got hit and I rolled to the gutter on the house side where my mom was. And I remember waking up and I'm seeing a whole crowd of people, like the neighbors,
Oh my
standing
God.
around looking at me and thinking, "Oh, I hope he's not going to die." I could read their thoughts and their feelings. And then I went to attempt to physically get up to get my arm that was in the middle of the street, exactly where the car hit my body. And then I passed out. But I remember going in an ambulance and then waking up, I don't know, maybe days later in the hospital. And I was lucky though. I didn't have to have surgery, but I had a broken arm and a broken leg.
Oh my God. So not that your arm had literally come off your body.
No, but psychically, right? My,
Oh,
my
got it.
my arm was still where the impact of the car
Oh,
hit it in the middle of the road. And I was
okay.
trying to get up to go get it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. There are very few people that have been, well, I say that hit by a car, but there are probably many more. So how, okay, so your mom saying you were Japanese already, and that's who you are. And then these not so great things happening to you. And then when you were in college, that was when, and there are way more things to talk about. When you're in college, what happened?
Well, well, I didn't mention this, but as a teenager,
Yeah.
I used to think I miss my teacher. I miss my Friday afternoon lessons. So maybe in obviously prior lifetimes or other lifetimes, I used to go weekly to
Okay.
be with my mentor and receive the teachings. And I remember being kind of pissed off at God because I go, God, I miss those lessons. As a teen or as a preteen, I didn't read metaphysical books or anything, but that was just my inner kind of frustration, right? That I missed my lessons. I wanted my lessons. I wanted to see my mentor. And so when I started college, my desire was to study philosophy and metaphysics, but they didn't really offer that back then. So I studied philosophy, got straight A's from this professor who never gave A's out. He never
Oh,
gave A's out. And his classes were always like 5 and 6 people. That's back in the day, right?
yeah.
Yeah, junior college classes, 5 or 6 people. I got straight A's. 4 times I got straight A's. And I studied Asian history, which delved a little bit into the metaphysical part. And when I studied philosophy, I studied like other great thinkers like Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, and those big philosophers, some of which I understood, and others, like Plato's thing, was really cool because
Hmm.
he had a theory of ideas, which we use today as archetypes. So his idea about that was he said, for every physical thing that exists in the physical world, there's a spiritual or energetic counterpart to it, an image, an archetype that creates that. And I thought, that's really cool. I understand that.
Okay, so when you were missing your teacher, did that just in school, what did that do for you? Did that drive you to go somewhere outside of school or to go deeper? What did that mean?
Well, as for most of us, going to school back in those days was very boring. And I used to think every year, how am I going to use this knowledge in my daily life when I grow up and have to get a job in the world? This is
Yeah.
irrelevant, completely irrelevant and stupid. So I barely got out of high school. I didn't like any classes except for shop in middle school. Uh, that's like making these wooden bowls, and that's like using the architect tools to like make designs. I
Yeah.
really like that. In fact, I thought, God, I could be an architect. This is like really fun using the T square and compass and like all that. And so I worked for almost a year to save money to go to college, and my desire was really to know the metaphysical truth that
Yeah.
I was seeking, nature of reality, what is God, those kind of things. None of my friends were into that, but that was my interest.
All right. So then, you had a brain concussion in the Air Force. You got a master's degree in education. Uh, Worked at like I've never heard of. Is it tracker practice?
Traeger work. Yeah,
Traeger work. Okay,
it's
so
called Traeger Psychophysical Integration and Mentastics. So that was developed by Dr. Traeger from Hawaii, who was a medical
okay,
doctor. But he quit his medical practice because he says, I was tired of listening to people's complaints every day for all those years that he was a medical doctor in Hawaii.
hmm
And he studied TM, and Maharishi asked him to be a Western representative of TM. He said no, and continued to begin to teach his bodywork practice, which, by the way, was about 50 years ahead of its time.
mm,
Because I've had a tendency in my astrological chart to study things that are ahead of its time. So
okay,
therefore, to try to implement that in a practice, oh, good luck, right?
yeah,
Nobody's relating. Nobody understand what you're saying, right?
yeah.
So I had that struggle a lot for many decades of studying these things, but how do you put it in a practice? How do you create a practice with this modality, this way of thinking? It was very difficult for me.
Okay, so let me see if I can package this a little bit. All right, so at 5, very inquisitive, wanted to know more, and it sounds like even through these incidents that were happening to you, you always had a drive to learn more. Do you feel that that came from parallel lives that you had, or it was just it was innate within you, always this push to see more?
Yes, all of that, all of that.
Okay,
Actually, when I was a young adult, what I wanted, what I asked the universe, in my thinking was,
okay,
I wanted to know how Yeshua healed and how Buddha got to that place in his meditation where he got to. And then I thought, I guess when I was in my 20s, I'd like to blend, unify the teachings of Christ and Buddha together. And then some channel told me way back then that's not possible. And then I thought,
whoa.
it could be, it could be.
Yes. Okay. Do you feel like you've mastered some of that, or is that some of what you do now?
Yeah, we expressed that in the work.
Okay.
The Buddha's life, and he taught for, and back in his day, that was like probably a world's record, but he taught for like 45 years and he lived to be at least 80. That was unheard of way back then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Literally 2500 BC. And so I always had this I always had a feeling like I was with him back then, right? And I was
Wow.
like either his assistant or his scribe, or I taught with him. And same thing with Yeshua. I
Yeah.
have these inclinations of certain personalities in our history. I go, oh yeah, I was back there then. I was in Egypt, Pharaoh, stuff like that, shamans, yeah, oracles, yeah, all that stuff that people do now. But way back then, I go, yeah, I was those things, but let's see what can be different, because I think I felt like, well, that's old. We want to be modern, right? We want to be up to date.
Yeah.
So really, the teachings have been a synthesis of how to integrate the ancient teachings into a modern approach that's relevant for people now, not 2,000, 3,000 years ago, or 20 lifetimes ago.
hmm So tell us about so you had a major, really long dark night of the soul from your notes from 1988 to 2000. And I remember watching this as well. Yeah, can you talk about that for a moment?
Well, because I couldn't get my private practice off the ground when I was living in Tucson and working at Canyon Ranch Spa,
Yeah.
uh, I moved back to my parents because they told me when I first moved away, well, you're always welcome to come back.
Okay.
And of course, that's what loving parents say to kids, right? Well, if you can't make it, you can come back here for a while and get your act together. Well, my act lasted 12 years. Um, See, we had a house fire at the end of, well, the beginning of 2000, turn of the
Hmm.
century. And
Okay.
that sent me off into homelessness and eventually to Mount Shasta. But getting back to the dark night of the soul, I felt I didn't have enough skills to create a private practice. And I knew I couldn't work for anybody. And I knew I didn't want to teach in the school system because of the energies and everything.
Hmm.
And so I basically became unemployed, staying with my parents, and eventually having to take care of my mom because she went blind and had some strokes. So for about 4 years, my dad and I, we took care of her. And that was probably the hardest part in my life because uh, I couldn't work. I
Hmm.
feel like I didn't have enough skills to do any kind of private practice, not even Traeger work, and or Jinshin or Reiki.
Hmm.
I didn't believe in myself enough that I could do that. Plus, I didn't know anybody except for my cousin. That was it. So I felt really alone in the Bay Area with all these people, all this noise, all this smog, all this traffic and everything. And I used to think literally every week, wow, God, show me a sign. Because I became really depressed
Yeah.
and I lost hope. I didn't give up completely, but I go, wow, where is the light at the end of the tunnel? So for like 12 years, I'm like, wow, is this ever going to end?
Ooh.
So we had to have a house fire unexpectedly to get me to move out of there, to go homeless, to go to Mount Shasta to either live or die. And somehow I made it there, but I still struggle with the practice. And then that was the beginning of my credit card debt. Um, so I guess the road up to the time that I moved to Seattle, cold turkey, was very difficult for me. And of course, I didn't have any relationships, and I felt really alone.
Were you
And
an only child?
I have a younger brother.
A younger brother. Where was he in all of this?
He was in the Bay Area, but we kind of lost contact.
Okay.
He was one where he could have been a very gifted computer programmer in 1968 with a degree from Berkeley, Cal,
Hmm.
in computer science or computer programming. And he dropped out his last year at Cal because of a breakup with this beautiful girlfriend that he had,
Hmm.
like the perfect girlfriend, kind of. And that shifted his life to where he went downhill energetically
Yeah.
and never recovered. And that was a little hard for me to see brother spiraling down like that. But we were close because he was on the verge of opening up metaphysically. And then because of that breakup, he kind of shut down and became a what we call a normal human being that wasn't interested in any of this stuff. Just
Oh,
get a job, get the money so that you can eventually marry this woman that had two kids and, survive as best you can. So that's where he went.
okay. So do y'all have a
But
relationship now?
say again?
Do y'all have a relationship now?
No, we just don't relate. We just don't
Right.
have things to talk about. Like when I did my dad's funeral in the Bay Area, we connected, but we never said anything. We never talked.
Oh
So I
man.
knew that, yeah, he was kind of like in this other place and wasn't open to what I was into or to talk about deeper things in life, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Oh, I definitely do. All right. So when you you went to Mount Shasta, what was the breakthrough for you?
Well, I was serious. I was either going to die on the mountain, like just walk up to the side of the mountain in a sleeping bag and just stay there until I made transition, or I'm going
Wow.
to make it.
Okay.
And Mount Shasta was the one sanctuary place of any place that I knew where I thought, well, I could live there. But I had to escape the Bay Area, if you know what I mean, and go to the
Yes.
sacred mountain and be in that energy. So when it came like late August and things were drying up as far as rentals, and I had no money and I was staying at a hostel, a hostel, because that's the
Yeah.
only thing I could afford with very little money. And I got German bed bugs staying there, which
Oh.
forced the owner to converted into a bed and breakfast. So I told her, I said, I'm not second myself sacrificing my body anymore for people to make changes in their life. Because that was worse than having poison oak all over your body. But anyway,
Oh, wow. Okay, I can't imagine. I haven't had. Ooh,
yeah,
ooh.
no, you don't want to get German bed bugs. But
Okay.
anyway, I met this guy who was traveling through, he was a welder.
Yeah.
And he decided to stay there and he rented this funky place in Lake Shastina. And then I met this young woman who actually hiked Mount Shasta with without sunscreen, without a hat, by herself. She hiked all the way up to the mountain and back in one day, which is like a world's record. So she, at one point at the hostel, said, "Well, why don't you talk to so and so? He might have a room for it." So I did, and he had this small little room that I rented. He eventually moved out, so I had the place to myself for almost 2 years. But I was saved from having to go on the mountain and in my sleeping bag and pray to God, okay, take me away, kind of thing. So I was saved at the last moment again from being even more homeless than I was.
Oh, gracious. And Kenji, can you say, like Mount Shasta in California is a cosmic point? Did you know that at that point, or did you just, how were you attracted there? Did you just feel the energy was really great? Why there?
Oh, well, I had friends that moved there, and of course, I always knew about the sacredness of the mountain.
Yeah.
So, so it was good in that sense. Yeah, I had done like workshops up there and things like that, hiking. So I knew the area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So you found this place, got to stay there for 2 years. Then what happened?
So here's how angels work, or this is how source works through other people. So the owner kicked me out of the house because I was putting up a close friend who was sort of breaking up with her boyfriend who lived somewhere down by Sonora.
Mhm.
And I put her up because she had no place to stay. The owner found out, and so she kicked me out.
Oh man.
And so I was forced out of there. So I had a yard sale. I sold my typewriter, believe it or not, a typewriter, you guys. Yeah, Corona typewriter. And my answering phone, corded answering machine back in those days, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Where you could leave a message on the unit, you know? And she says, "Hey, I know this person in Seattle. Here's her name and number. Why don't you look her up?" So I went up to Seattle in a U-Haul truck with my what belongings I had and my what I have. I had a Honda. I had a Honda Civic at that time. So I went up there and I called this person up who happened to be hosting monthly spiritual gatherings in Mill Creek, of where I ended up staying in an apartment for
Yeah.
like almost 13 years. Um, she introduced me to this woman who put me up for 6 months at no charge in their spare bedroom
Mm.
in Edmonds. But I said to her, "Well, this woman from Mount Shasta, she gave me your name and number." And then she says, "Well, I don't know anybody by that name in Mount Shasta. So how in the heck did this woman know this woman in Seattle and her phone number when this woman said, 'No, I don't know anybody by that name and I don't know anybody in Mount Shasta.'"
Man, talk about divine intervention.
Yeah.
Thank. Oh my gracious. All right. So then what happened?
Well, uh, I went into credit card debt, but I also at that time, so here's how angels work again.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing, what am I doing? I'm just doing telephone healings. And I met a webmaster that created my first website, but he didn't stay long, but it was a start. And that's the only thing that I did for income, but I wasn't a credit card debt. And back in '07, this guy calls me up on the phone
Mhm.
and he said, well, I got your number from your newsletter because I used to do my own newsletters and put my personal information on there. He says, uh, can you come to Taos and teach what you do? And I go, well, yeah, I could do that. So that was the beginning of my traveling out of state and even overseas to teach quantum light weaving. That's what I called the work back then. And so it's because of that that I got sponsors in Santa Fe, then Baton Rouge, Toronto, Sacramento, San Francisco, Edmonton, Toronto. So from that one sponsor, I got other sponsors just by word of mouth.
So, how did you start doing this spiritual kind of work? Was it hopefully I'm saying this right. Again, the Traeger, did that start and knowing that you had always been bent on finding out more? Did you have other teachers that fell into your lap, or did you just start creating your own? Was it fed to you or?
Well, back in 1975, my dad heard about Reiki.
Okay.
And so Reverend Takata, who was living in Hawaii and teaching Reiki there, she
Mm-hmm.
studied in Japan with Usui.
Mm-hmm.
She got the government to agree to take Reiki out of Japan to the world
Yeah.
because Reiki in Japan was a national treasure. You don't take national treasures out of the country,
Yeah.
let alone teach it, right? She got permission to do that. And dad heard about it. He invited me to take Reiki 1, which I did. See, dad was also borderline really opening up, but then he shut down.
Wow. Okay. So, how old were you at this point?
When was I? 1975. So I was in my 20s.
Okay, that's so cool.
Yeah. So we together, my dad and I, we took Takata's second ever Reiki training in America, in the
Wow.
mainland, in the mainland.
Yeah.
And so I took it and got attunement from Takata and attempted to practice it for a while, but didn't go anywhere. But so, well, I got to say before that, though, before that, in the Bay Area, I came upon this guy who was teaching psychic studies. And so I studied with him for 2 years until he
Okay.
kicked me out of the school, which was a good thing. So I had to go on my own again.
Kenji, wait a minute. You seem to be kicked out of a lot of places.
Yeah, how about that, right? Yeah,
I like
yeah.
rebels.
Yeah, well, a lot of the teachers that I studied with, they eventually kicked me out,
Huh.
which is good. Well, it's a positive thing, but the way that they did it, yeah, I wouldn't do it that way. But yeah.
Okay. So not so positive, but it helped you move on to something better.
Yeah, well, see, eventually when I went to Taos, uh, well, before that, I left my last teacher
Yeah.
and, and I said to myself, okay, I'm going to create something that's uniquely me. I'm not going to copy anybody else's work.
Hmm.
And so when I went to Taos, I started doing that. I gave intros and people loved it. In fact, people there were so hungry for something different that they flocked to these intros that I did. And I gave
Wow.
the like $20 intros and the whole place was filled up with people. I got invited to someone's home and like 25 people showed up. And so I was demonstrating the work, and that's how it really started. I got a sponsor in Santa Fe, and that really got the ball rolling. And so I traveled a lot for about 8 years. And I don't know though, I stopped in that way in 2014, but I kept the calendar just because there was 2 years straight where I was so busy, and me being in my 50s, I go, nobody in their right mind could have this energy to do all this stuff that I'm doing. Traveling, I was doing phone sessions, and I was like doing my own newsletters, and I go, wow, I mean, this is crazy. Where does this energy come from? But I was so inspired
Oh.
that I had the energy to do it, even at my older age back then.
Hmm.
Literally by myself, just having sponsors. I didn't, well, I eventually hired some managers and stuff, but they didn't work out in the long run. But I realized you don't need a lot of this business stuff that people tell you you need,
Yeah.
but you need to draw in the right kind of people. And so I went through tons of webmasters. I went through a manager. I went through VAs. And now I'm at a place where I'm very simple. It's just myself and one other woman that's going to be doing everything. And I'm going, wow, if two people can run a business like this in this field, yeah, it could
Heck.
be a model for other people. You don't have to spend tons of money
Yeah.
to look important or to, give the appearance like, hey, I've got this staff working for me. But see, you pay for expenses for all that, and you got to make sure you've got enough income to cover your bases, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
like the Buddha taught, the more simple, the better.
Yes. And do you mind saying how old you are now? Wait, no,
I'm
it's
going
just a
to
number.
be 79 June 25th.
No way. All right.
Yeah.
And for those who are watching, because we do have an Audible podcast as well, you look a fantastic.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And do you still feel, I'm guessing, inspired and resilient doing what you do? Yeah, apparently I think you do.
Well, what's funny thing is, in my older age, I feel energetically more intact than
Yeah.
I did like 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, because I've learned how to manage my energy. And that's what a lot of star seeds need to know how to do
Hmm.
to manage their sensitivity, their empathic abilities, and their awarenesses, their higher level perception and all that. But yeah, so I'm like a fine wine, if you know what I mean. With age, I taste better.
Yeah. Okay. I think you need a relationship, Kenji. And okay. So let me ask this for a moment. It's because with our Ascension 2, I have, oh gosh, has it been a month and a half? Not needing as much sleep anymore. Like I probably had 6 hours last night, which I was an 8 to 9 hour girl consistently. So normally I would just be like, oh, tired and worn out. And I'm not affected, but I not affected by it. And I keep looking at it going, when is this going to stop or what's, and then eating also just not being very hungry and also knowing that as we ascend that our bodies are going to change and nutrients are going to be different. When you talk to Gen Z star seeds about how having to manage their energy, also knowing that there's this great change that's happening, what do you encourage with that?
Well, to find mentors, not necessarily teachers or
Yeah,
healers, but mentors, because there's a difference.
there sure
To
is.
find mentors that can help guide you along the path, because it can be tricky because of social media and
Oh
where the
gosh.
world's at right now. In fact, you could say that the world at large is in a state of extreme overwhelm, uncertainty, doubt, fear, anxiety, stress, worry, and oh my God, is this stuff ever going to end? Kind
Hmm.
of thing. And we have to rise above it energetically.
Yeah.
See, it's like surfing, right? Learning how to surf. You're going to get wiped out many times before you learn how to catch the lip of the wave and ride the wave. So it's like that. It's like catching the wave, the cosmic wave, and riding the wave rather than forcing yourself to try to get on the wave.
There is this great meme that I've seen with Jesus on a surfboard
Mm,
riding the wave.
yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to you and I, let's put it these years of working. It's not so much work anymore, but clearing off our demons, whatever you want to call it, and getting more to this place of peace and calm. Okay, I'm getting to a question. I'm formulating it as I chat, knowing that so much of the world right now is in this chaos. How do people who need you just find you? How does it work for you?
You've heard the story. Someone's like on their computer and all of a sudden somebody shows up out of nowhere and like, where did that come from? Or someone's checking their cell phone, all of a sudden this person that they don't even know shows up on their cell
Shows
phone.
up.
How did that happen? Right? I've had many stories like that. That's how they find me one way. Um, but also, when people sign up for my email list, they get announcements and events and stuff, and so they're being tutored that way in a sense. I
Mm.
like this whole thing of tutoring and mentoring because in a way it's like an old concept, but I think it's very relevant because you could write this down because this is from um, an old version of Webster's dictionary that
Ah,
may go back to the 70s,
okay.
but I looked it up one time. So, do you know what the meaning of to educate is?
Oh my gosh, there's no telling. Yeah, what are the specifics of that? To program?
Very simple, very simple. It's a Zen thing, right?
Okay.
It's to bring out in another what is inherent. And
Oh,
that's what I do as an educator.
that's
Now,
sweet.
to heal, what do you think to heal means?
I don't know. You give it.
Okay, so remember to write this down. To heal means to restore to one's original integrity, energy field, matrix, still point, that. It's very simple, but it's very true.
Yeah, and I'm amazed that these definitions are true.
Yeah, but you
Webster
won't find them
definitions.
now in the modern dictionaries.
Whoa.
They've taken a lot of profound stuff out of books and dictionaries and stuff like that. But so when we work with people in a sort of called healing capacity, we're holding the state so that they can bring out or to reestablish their original sense of integrity. Integrity meaning source, body, earth alignment, emotional alignment, psychological alignment, all that stuff. So we, as healing facilitators, are not working on someone to take away their pain or to do whatever,
Yeah.
with your hands in the air or do psychic surgery or all that. Although at times these things are necessary at times, but rule of thumb is for people to understand really what the true meaning of healing is and education. So when we mentor people, we're not laying upon them a lot of information that's not relevant for them. We are coaching them to bring out what is inherent in their Akashic records from their past lives, from their alternative lives, from their future self, all that good stuff.
Oh, so much deliciousness.
Yeah, it is
So
delicious.
much deliciousness. All right, when you have so most of the or tell me if this is correct. The majority of people that you work with are they in their 20s and early 30s, or that's who
They're
you really focus
all
on?
ages.
Okay.
Historically, I've worked with the generation that's slightly below mine, like in
Mhm.
their 50s and
Mhm.
60s. But now there's the younger ones are starting to show up
Yeah.
because they're searching.
Yes.
And if they do a Google search like healers in Sedona or spiritual mentors or starseed teachers, some of us will come up on a Google search. Um, but I always like the word of mouth thing.
Yep.
That is really the best. That's
Right.
where you you get your quality people from word of mouth, like in the old days.
Yes. Okay. When these younger folks show up to you, are typically when they're searching, do a lot of them have an idea and they've already figured some stuff out? Are they coming to you a lot of the times just going, please help me. I don't know what to do. How much knowledge do they have coming your way?
Here's how I phrase it to them.
Yeah.
And this goes for everybody really that comes our way is they're wanting clarity. Because if you have clarity about your life and who you are and what you are and how you serve, you can navigate all these different challenges in a masterful way. So think about this. If one does not have clarity about who they are and their purpose, oh wow, right? A lot of
Yeah.
stress, as opposed to if they had clarity. So once we reaffirm for them this energy of clarity, then we go into, well, I ask a lot of people because they go, I don't know what to do next. I don't know where my spiritual path is, and I need to focus. And I've got gifts. I'm very sensitive. I'm empathic. I want to know God and all that stuff, right? They want enlightenment. In fact, every client that has come into my life in the forum, in the client intake forum, I always ask them, what's your highest or your highest spiritual aspirations? They
Yeah.
go, enlightenment. They all put that in one way or another. So I guess they come because they think I can help them with that. But
Yeah.
really, what I do is I help them to clarify all that stuff that they know that's in their records, that's in their past lives, that's in their future self, that's in their higher self. So we do what we can to hold the vibration through presence so that people can go, oh, I got it now. All right, I'm getting this download, or oh, yes, right? And what I usually ask people is thinking back in your life as a little person growing
Yeah.
up, and we can ask you this, what did you what are the things that you did that came naturally to you without studying that you really loved and brought you joy? And I say, well, that's your purpose.
Yeah. Okay. So for
As
me,
little kids,
yeah, that's
we have it,
right.
just can't formulate it in words and vision necessarily.
Well, it was interesting for me. I loved creative. So I went into the design world of graphics and advertising for a while. And then it changed to healing work or whatever. But it's the same thing. It's so creative. And I like being my own boss and being in charge of my world. So yeah, that was it it fits, right?
Yeah, what we're doing is help people to retap into their creativity.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, what you can do naturally without any training
Yeah.
that brings you joy and happiness and love and all that good stuff, all the good vibes, you can bring that into your next step,
Yeah.
your own business, or however you want to create your career or your livelihood. And people are searching, or they think they're searching for how to be more creative,
Oh, that's great.
right? We get a lot of people that
Yes.
go, God, my corporate job is so boring, I
Uh,
want to leave. Or I just left my corporate job because, man, it's like I need stimulus. I
it's
need to know my passion. So we don't teach people, oh, well, you could do this or you could do that.
right.
All right, well, tell me what you can do naturally that you're very
Yeah.
good at. Oh, creative writing, artwork, managing people,
Mhm.
coming up with creative ideas for other people, or I'm really good at following through with other people's ideas, or it could be anything,
Right.
right?
Right. Okay. Let's shift into the Great Awakening for just a moment. In terms of what is going on in 2025, how do you think things are going?
It depends on where you are on the level of the marketplace.
A great
So
point.
this year is a very pivotal point for the planet as well as starseeds. Not everybody has come here to be enlightened. Some people come here because they just want to do the American dream or the European dream or whatever, and that's okay. They're not, their interest is not where we are, our interest.
Mhm.
So we have to address this to star seeds, 'cause those the ones that come with a purpose, a mission. They become highly sensitive, highly perceptive is probably a better term. Highly perceptive, knowing things, feeling things, sensing things, all that. Oh, side note, I used to ask little kids, where did you come from before you were born? And if they say Chicago, I go, no, no, no. And I point up to the sky. I go like from there, right?
Just like you asking your mom, "Who am I? Japanese?" No,
That's
point up to the
right.
stars.
Yeah.
There's more. There's way more to it. And when you point up there, are like that, do their eyes brighten, get excited about that, or like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, sometimes they go because they're too old now, like they're 7 or 8. Like,
Ah,
yeah. Yeah, I don't remember. So, but if they're 5 or younger, they can still remember
oh,
before they came here, where they came from, and all that. Um, but getting back to your question, so depending on your level of consciousness, from like 1 to 100, if we're going to use just a scale just to talk about this level, 100 being like very aware, right? And
mhm,
one having like not very high level consciousness, just physically oriented, right? So we got that scale. So depending on where you are this year and in the future, it could be very difficult, very challenging, or it could be very exhilarating and
yeah,
enlightening. So we have the ability, innate ability, not learned, innate, right? Coming from our creator to manage our life. But it takes being conscious that thoughts are things, in a sense, as they say, right? Energy follows thought.
mhm,
So whatever you put out to the world is going to come back to you. And most people don't know this, right? What you put out comes back to you. They don't have a clue what that means. But those that do, they become very mindful of how they're thinking and the kind of emotions that come from their body. But it takes growing up too. So maturity, comes with age. So maybe people now that are like 35 won't wake up for another 20 years. We don't know. But the challenge energetically, because of the photon belt, because of the solar flares, because of the radiations that are coming through our physical sun and our spiritual sun, is presenting us with, who do you want to be? How do you want to be? Where do you want to go in your life? You can't sit there on the fence and twiddle your thumbs. You have to make a choice, a decision. What kind of a world do I want to live in? So that's taking the responsibility back to us. And the more that people think alike, that's going to create the new earth in a more tangible way. New earth meaning basically it's a world where there's cooperation, there's communication, there's love as the guiding force or power, the power of love in the new earth, the guiding principle, co-creation, communication, quality relationships that doesn't have the fear and the doubt and the anger and the duality. So it is possible to be on earth and not be influenced by the polarity of good and bad or good and evil or right and wrong. And then we attract, as we know, we attract like-minded souls into our world.
yes. So with that, how would you say your world's going right now?
How would you say what now?
How would you say your world's going right now? Mine's going great.
Yeah, well, since I did my retreat here in Sedona, I had some breakthroughs. So yeah,
Oh,
I'm back on track.
so
So
nice. And you just finished that up like a week or two ago?
yeah, I did it on the 11th.
Okay.
Yeah, that was very enlightening for me personally. So,
Nice.
so I healed my business issues
Ah,
that I had within my perception of how my business wasn't going, if you know what I
okay.
mean.
Yes.
So, I'm recommitted to my focus of working with these Starseed parents and kids and
Oh
the
my gosh.
Gen Z generation. And I think what I love doing the most, um, well, is working with kids, but
Yeah.
from a mentoring place, that brings me a lot of joy.
That's so great.
Yeah. And then,
Exciting.
of course, doing retreats. I love doing retreats. I have a lot of experience in doing that. And I'm not traveling anymore, but so whenever I can teach, yeah, that brings me a lot of joy.
And you're in a place to do wonderful retreats and nature and all of that. Let's go ahead and go to the practice. Yeah, what would you like to bring to us today, knowing are many star seeds listening?
Just be practice.
Well, okay, number one, based on my life experience,
Yes.
is to keep the faith. To keep the faith that you and whatever created you, whatever name you want to give it, could be the nameless one even, has been guiding you your whole life. And when you tune in to that guidance, you will be fulfilled. Number two, that the power of love is the most creative and most powerful force in all of creation. So if we are mindful that we are the expression of that power through our bodies, all is well. Three, to know what is true for oneself and what is not. And four, to know that you are doing the best that you can do each and every day and to not judge yourself for not being good enough or smart enough or enlightened enough. And five, to be strong, that you can be your authentic divine self manifesting through a body. And a side point is we are a spiritual being having an earth experience through a human body. You're not a human being trying to be more spiritual.
Yes.
And point six or seven, that which created you, all of us, surrounds us with the power of love 24/7. And all we need to do is reconnect in meditation with that power. And what we're moving into is the knowingness that one's presence, that's the I am, that's the soul spirit
Mm-hmm.
presence, heals all. So if we were to eliminate all healing techniques, all emotional techniques, all psychological techniques, all of that, and move into that place of presence, that changes the world, it changes our bodies. It is the what? The unseen force that moves through all of creation, not just here, but in Arcturus, the Pleiades, Sirius, all those places as well.
Very nice. Okay, I want to make sure that there's not another one that's going to pop up. Do you feel complete?
Yeah, again, the message is keep the faith.
Keep the faith.
Don't give up. Surrender as best you can. Your thoughts, your emotions, what you're going through, your hardships. There's kind of a technique that we use on occasion,
Yeah.
and it's working with Mother Mary or any Divine Mother representative that one believes in, but you can give your sorrow, your pain, your suffering to Mother Mary, literally, by offering it up like that. That's one approach among many, but it's being willing to give over our suffering and our pain, our distress, our anxiety, whatever bothers us. And we don't have to keep it in our bodies any longer. So the old way, Piscean age thing, taught us, yeah, you keep all that stuff in your body.
Oof.
And now it's the opposite, right?
Yeah.
We're going to let it go out of our bodies, out of our cells, out of our liver, out of our lungs, out of our brain. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
practice. So again, practice makes perfect, that old saying, right? Practice every day. Practice how you want to be in the world, how you want to feel in the world, the kind of people you want to attract into your world. Practice that, feel that when you meditate.
Awesome. Because if you do that, it will come. And just like you said, having the faith. Hey, I want to end for a moment. Do you mind telling about your free 2 month gift that you're offering for people?
Yeah, instead of offering like a free activation like we used to do for many
Yeah.
years, we're offering a 2 month free trial period in our membership program. Now, I don't know how other people do their membership programs, and I don't have tiers. I just have one level.
Yeah.
Although there's going to be many programs in that level that
Got it.
people can participate in for free or for a reduced price, which they can't get otherwise. But so this basic level, we meet weekly, which initially I thought, do I want to come in myself every like Thursday afternoon, like to do these Zoom calls? Like, oh man, that means you can't get sick, you can't go on vacation. You know, it's like all these things. Oh, what? Be in your computer every week for two
Yeah.
hours? Like, oh, come
Oh, no,
on.
2 hours. Wow.
Yeah, it seems to be that way. But anyway, we do a variation of things. We do some one-to-one mentoring and coaching. We get people to open up their throat chakra and be
Nice.
visible and be
Mhm.
out there so they can be supported by the group because the group is becoming very tight, in a sense, a very loving, supportive group that doesn't judge anything, right? They're at that place. So in a sense, it's a very advanced group of people, very loving people from all different backgrounds, lawyers, doctors, unemployed, you name it, private practice and the
Yeah.
healing. Um, I am drawing more lawyers, and that's kind of a funny thing.
That is wild.
That
Wow.
is,
That's
that is,
good.
yeah. Um, there's some meetings where we'll practice our psychic skills like teleportation or clairvoyance or clairaudience. So we'll do exercises. They're fun.
Yeah.
We get feedback on that. Um, there might be a meeting where we just kind of have a fireside chat and just talk about stuff, you know, just share because here's what I found. People don't necessarily have a platform to share.
Mm-mm. You're right.
And when they come on a platform that's kind of new to them, they're still reluctant, right? They'll hide their video so we can't see them.
Oh,
Or but most of the time though, people are willing to share, which is good. And they'll
yeah.
even admit, yeah, it's hard for me to share in this group because la da da da, right? But it's good training to keep your throat chakra open because that's
Mhm.
one of the things women are being challenged with on this level is keeping their throat chakra open so they can express freely
Mhm.
without having the fear they're going to be judged, basically.
Yeah.
So it's a good platform and it's a good example of how people can come together in a place where there's no judgment, there's no right and wrong. There's just a lot of help, a lot of support. So I'm finding that's a need for a lot of starseed people, young and old. We're not talking about social media because that's so superficial and that's so addictive, but to find the right kind of membership program for people. Plus, as when they go into the paid membership part after the 2 months, they'll get all these free bonuses and all these discounts. So the trial period is just, going to attend your classes, you'll get the replays. And then if you decide to continue, you're going to get all these other treasures of stuff. We call them that.
Very
So it's very
nice.
fun. and they have their own account. So everything is in their back office, so to speak, and member
Yeah.
press, which I recommend people do that member press for their membership program because it's a pretty good platform.
Kenji, that was beautiful. Any final words before we say goodbye to you? And thank you. I always thank you so much for sharing yourself and your knowledge. And it was beautiful. Anything else? Are we good?
Yeah, I think we're good. And
Okay.
I'd like to come back again to do maybe
Oh,
something a little different.
nice. Okay, we'll chat about that later.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
we could do a teaching thing. We could do a teaching segment if you want, or
Nice.
we can do a Q&A thing, or we can do both, or we can do a very long activation. Here's the thing. I'll give you what Yeshua said when he was here.
Yeah.
That's not in the Bible. I don't know how I got it. I think I got it directly from him, telepathically. And if people do this, the world will be a better place sooner than later. But what he said, for those that were with him back then, if you can recall, now this is when he was teaching and when he was doing his healing work and all of that. And that also applies to Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary and Anna as well, not just him. But he said, and he probably said, remember this in your future lives. But whatever I give, meaning whatever I channel through my body to you, is given for all of eternity. So if you think about that, not even think about that, if you just contemplate the power of that,
Yeah.
whatever love you give to another is given for all of eternity. It's not just given for like in this moment, because it's evergreen. It's organic, it's live, it lives forever. So whatever blessings you give to others last forever on that level that it was given on.
Ooh.
Hey, so
Oh,
before you remember
I'm
that, right?
no, I'm feeling it. It's awesome. I'm just captivated for a moment. Yeah, it's great.
This
Oh.
kiss will last forever, beloved soul. You can say that to her, right? In preparation, right?
Okay, Kenji, that is a beautiful thing to end on. All right, y'all, stay tuned for next week. That was beautiful. I'm gonna laugh really hard when we say goodbye. So stay on with me so we can say goodbye. But everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. Keep up the high vibes, would you? You have to. You got to do it. You got to do it. Bye, Kenji. Y'all, find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, True Social, as well as Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, plus a plethora of other audio directories like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So like, subscribe, do it all. See ya.